I mean, all announcements of funding are really positive. I think you and I spoke this time last year. I think it was at 3.1 million, and we talked about just the need for increased funding, higher thresholds for income levels, just to enable people to get the grants so badly needed. So yeah, it's welcome for sure.
And I suppose just for people who mightn't be aware, what can people put these grants towards?
Yeah, so the housing adaptation grants enable people to adapt their homes where maybe people were living in a home that was inaccessible. It may be somebody has acquired an impairment. It may be that a child has become an adult and has decided to, I suppose, remain in the family home for now, and accessible accommodation is required, maybe an accessible bathroom, bedroom. There can be, I suppose, there's an assessment of needs done. There's a costing done. There's an application form that's submitted to the local authority, and then it's about finding contractors who can complete the job. I suppose I just want to always highlight the ongoing issue with regard to the threshold in terms of people being entitled to the full amount. It isn't an exorbitant amount. I think it's, as I recall, it's about 35, 40,000. And the other point that's really important is when there's an assessment of needs done, or a means test done, it's done on the person who owns the home. But in actual fact, in many cases, it's an adult with a disability who isn't the homeowner, who may not be have a lot of income and may not be working full time, or may not be working at all and may only have the disability allowance. So again, always trying to expand and make it as more equitable and fair as possible. The recommendation from Clare Leader Forum and from disabled people's organisations is always just that the assessment of need financially and otherwise should always be around the person who's directly benefiting from that.
And just looking at the maximum available grant, that stayed the same compared to last year. And I suppose you're looking at rising costs still being a pressure on most households. And then when you put into the fact that it's the maximum grant, and as you mentioned, that they still have to meet that threshold, and quite often applicants aren't getting the full 40,000 or 10,000 or 8,000, depending on which grant they apply for.
I mean, I suppose what's disappointing in this grant and many others is that it hasn't factored in the exorbitant rising costs. So that really is a disappointment. We know that there's a campaign at the moment to reinstate the once-off cost of disability that was provided in 2000 or 24 and 25, and on top now of the current situation with war and extreme rising costs. I suppose maybe I would be asking the Clare County Council if it would look at providing even a temporary additional thresholds and considerations to supporting it. I know it's a department issue, but maybe the Clare Leader Forum or Clare County Council could take a lead on this and engage with colleagues around the country to look at the barriers to draw down. And then I suppose a question I have, I don't have the answer, but it is around looking at if there were any of that funding not drawn down, not because of a lack of need, but because maybe people had a particular access need, but the grant that was available wasn't enough, or people weren't able to top up the grant enough, so therefore couldn't go ahead with works. That's a huge reason why people aren't making their homes accessible. And I suppose it's really important that people acquire impairments all the time. 65% of disability is acquired. And so therefore we don't want to run the risk of people who've already trying to manage a trauma of acquiring impairment being forced out of their home. And we know that too many young disabled people are forced into nursing homes because they haven't been able to put the means in place to make their homes accessible. So it really is around everybody working together to make sure that this funding is used as is, and to maximise the opportunities for disabled people.
Yeah, you're looking at the figures, the latest we have from September last year, of 433 applicants being awarded money, but I suppose that's all well and good. the key aim is to have the projects delivered in a timely manner.
Absolutely. And as I understand it, the mechanism, it opens later on in the year. And so, like, what have we now? We have March. And if people are only applying in September, realistically, will people even have their work? So, yeah, I mean, there probably is a bit of work to be done around it to open that process and to make it more feasible for people to benefit from the maximum grants to make their homes accessible.
And I suppose just finally looking at the older people's side of it, the vast majority of those applicants last year were for elderly people's aids. Is that something that the County Council can perhaps look more at in terms of providing supports for particularly people who are living alone?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting how aids are being used, or sorry, this funding is used to buy aids. And again, what's the role and responsibility of the HSE who do provide aids and appliances? And again, I suppose that's again, it's how do people access it? So again, it is around looking at what do older people know enough about this grant. Again, we want to keep people at home with the supports, with an accessible home, with the equipment needed to enable people to live safe and comfortable lives.
Yeah, it's a key thing that's always in the Department of Housing's press release to enable people to live independently, but that can only be done when they're in their own homes and not forced to move into nursing homes.
Absolutely. And remember, we're so well, if you look at disabled people, and it should be the same with older people, anybody who has support needs, if somebody has a physical support need, environmental, and that is met through this grant and it's achieved, and then that same person needs, assistance to remain at home, there needs to be a holistic assessment to ensure that all those needs met are met timely and together to really increase the opportunities for every person, regardless of age or support needs, to remain at home with dignity and respect. Because that's what we all want as human beings, is to be within our communities.